Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Explode Your Expert Business Show. And today I'm here with the one and the only Flavio Affinito. How are you doing, Flavio?
Hi, good morning, Simone. I'm doing really well. Yeah, nice and healthy and happy.
All right, so we're going to talk about saving the world, in particular, saving the environment, going specifically into saving our oceans. And right now, in this particular time in history, I think is a time where us as a human being, as a species, we are forced to look at the choices that
Yeah,
we make. Now, before we go into that, and I got a few questions to ask you about this. What is one, I'm asking this question to all my guests at the moment. What is
yeah.
one thing you're learning from this lockdown, either about yourself or about business?
Oh, that's a good question. I think the main thing I'm seeing from this lockdown is just starting to realize how rushed I always am, and how rushed to like catch up to others as a small startup, and always trying to like catch up.
Hmm.
Seeing that not necessarily need to catch up, and it's nice to see that everyone else is also slowing down and starting to realize that the things that matter are not necessarily just business as usual, and
Hmm.
yeah, this feeling of not having to catch up is
Hmm.
is really great.
How are you going to take this learning forward?
I think the main thing from this learning is in my setting of priorities.
Hmm.
What I'm really seeing right now is that I can deal with things that I wasn't seeing as priorities, or even just putting under the carpet things that I knew were kind of important, but I just
Right.
didn't have time because I had to prioritize other things because I had to catch up. And I think now with this having had time to catch up, I can now look at priorities again in a new way and be able to set
Hmm.
priorities more effectively.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing. I definitely can totally feel the same. There's been a big learning for me too. I'm always looking to be more and build more and expand the business. And this has been a time where we're forced to actually slow down, look
Yeah,
at a different way to restructure the business. We're on an event business. We had to reschedule about 150 events in 1 week. So it's kind of forcing us to see, okay, how you're running your business, how you're running your life. I mean, I never told to my mom as much as I'm talking now for the past probably 10
yeah,
years. Now we talk every day. So is that this small thing, or even having dinner with my wife?
mm,
Well, before I was out almost every evening running events and speaking, and that made me
yeah,
realize. So it is. I can totally relate with you, and the reason why I asked you how you're going to move this forward, because I had a conversation with my wife about this recently, and we said, you know what, how are we going to move these things forward? I was like, okay, that's a very good point, because then it's easy to get caught up and
yeah.
go back to what was the normal, our norm before. Thank you for sharing. I know you have a huge passion for the environment, and in particular the oceans,
Yeah,
that led you to create a company that takes no recyclable elements that you can find in the ocean and create wearable goods.
totally.
And
Yeah.
where is this passion for oceans and for the environment comes from?
It's something. It's kind of funny because anyone who knows me will say that that's always been there, and even for me, I feel like there's an element of it's always been there because from a very young age, I was actually I'm half French, half Italian,
Hmm.
where my parents are from. I've never actually really lived in either of the countries. I'm in Belgium, so completely
Yeah.
bit all over the place. And I was born there, lived there for 1 year, and then we left and we moved to the Caribbean for 4 years. And
Hmm.
and I like to think probably that's where it was born because otherwise I don't see where in my story. But I'm probably living these 4 years there in the essentially
Mm.
the beach for 4 years. The only thing there was for me to do as a kid was be in the water, right? There's nothing to do in the Caribbean. Like, it's nice for holidays, but when you live there as a child, there's really nothing else to do.
Mhm.
So I spent a lot of time on the beach in the water. When I came back to Europe, I became a competitive swimmer, and throughout my school years, I always knew I wanted to do marine biology, and I wanted
Mm.
study like whales. That was my
Right. So you were
kind of
obsessed from
North
a
Star.
young age. You were already obsessed about marine
Yeah.
biology. Okay.
Yeah, totally. There was this like North Star that I wanted
Mm.
to study whales, and I took my parents on holidays to go see whales. I would pick the destinations where we could go see whales. Right?
Wow.
It was that kind of
How old were you at the time?
passion. I think probably when I was really young, it was just animals, and then the whales probably around 13 is when it started,
Right.
like
Right.
12, 13, where it was like really it has to be whales and marine.
The obsession started.
Exactly. Like my
Got
brother hated it because he sick.
it.
So the boat trips was the worst for him. And yeah, so there was always that, right? And I did biology. I did all of that stuff at school. So I did well at school, and then I was going to go to university, and I wanted to go to marine biology to university. And to make my parents happy, I applied because I said I wasn't going to apply to Cambridge or Oxford because I didn't like the vibe in a way when I went to visit. So I applied to Imperial College because it was also like good university. So I thought that made them happy. And then I got the offer, which I didn't really expect because my whole application was for marine biology, not biology. And they made me the offer for biology. So I thought, oh, okay, I should probably take it because it's good university. So I went there and I studied biology for 3 years. And I did a master's actually in statistics and ecology because it was a good skill and it was really employable. And I still wanted to study marine mammals, but most of my university career was kind of started to gear towards what should be done and what looked best on my CV versus what I really cared about. So when I finished my master's, I actually got a job in 1 week. I moved to Montenegro to go lead a small research group over there, and then studying dolphins. So I spent 6 months studying dolphins over there, marine biology, and
so you were back in your environment.
Yeah, exactly. I was back in my environment and I was liking it, but because I was doing so much of the analytics, because that was my training, I started almost a computer monkey. Even though I was studying marine mammals, I was doing maths and I was writing reports, and it was good. I liked it because it was interesting, but there was something missing, right? It wasn't. There was.
What was missing? What was missing for you?
I just wasn't having fun. I was doing something I was good at, but it was still part of this kind of stepping stone of my master's. I did my degree. I did my master's. I got a job now. I'm going to get a bit of experience. Then I'll do a PhD. And then it was just this kind of constant up and up and up and up without ever really being wherever I was. And the passion was kind of almost lost in the middle of this drive to get somewhere.
And so from there, how did you come up with the idea of starting your company?
Well, from there, it's actually, when I came to the end of my contract in Montenegro, I had this really one of my best friends who I met at university, studied biology with him, and we lived together during our university years. And I was about to move to Panama. Well, I was waiting for an offer for a job in Panama. And he called me and he's like, oh, why don't you come back and we do something together? Because I know you're doing well, but I don't think you're happy. And I think we could do something better together. That's told me, Cash. I think you could be happier here. And I was like, maybe. Well, I didn't say yes. Right? I said, if I don't get the offer by the beginning of June, or they say no, I come back. If they say yes, I go. So what happened is that they just didn't answer before June. So I came back. And I got the offer 2 weeks later, but
but at the point you made a decision,
right? I told Terry, my co-founder, I told him, look, I was coming back. We'll do something together. At that point, we had no idea what that something was. We just knew we were going to start something together. Turned down the offer from the Smithsonian in Panama, and and we sat down. Essentially, we moved into my mom's place because we didn't, we just had a bunch of savings. We didn't even have an idea yet. And we sat in my mom's place and we went to the living room. That's kind of where we lived for a few months. At the very beginning, we just sat there and both of us, I knew I cared about marine biology and I cared about the ocean. Terry cared about the environment. We both knew we wanted to create something that was going to make a difference and be product based. So we spent a few weeks just brainstorming at each other, a lot of ideas. Then we took them out. We ended up with 3 main ideas that we took out to all the people we knew. We spent like hours messaging everyone in our contact list,
Yeah.
trying to see like, what do you think? What's your feedback? All that kind of stuff. And one of the ideas, which is one of the ones that was closest to me, was on working with unrecyclable ocean plastics. And people loved it. Like, we got really good feedback.
How did you choose
Early
that
stage.
one? How did you choose that one compared to others? Because when I'm really passionate about the environment, and my wife, I told you when we first met, my wife often MCs and hosts one of the largest conferences
Yeah.
for social change, which is called Change Now. And when I was there, I was blown away by the amount of ideas and innovations that there were that are actually not mainstream, that could solve a lot of problems that we have on the planet.
Yeah.
And so how did you pick use the part of the one of particular using no recyclable plastic compared to other solution that you might have come up with?
Yeah, well, I think there was something special with this idea that came up. Well, it just came close to home, right? It was marine plastics, and
Yeah.
it was just, there was really a passion there. It just fueled that passion again, and I was like, this is something I care about. So that was really one of the stepping stones. And then why these plastics is really because we knew there was a lot going on in the space of plastics. There's on the news a lot, and there's a lot of people are aware that it's happening. But there's also a lot of misconceptions in the fact that plastic is seen as, it's all the same. It's all bad, and you can all recycle it. But the truth is, you can't. There's so many different types of plastics. And yes, we're doing a good job of getting rid of single-use plastics like the bags and so on, and a good job of dealing with bottles. And bottles are one of the main sources of plastic pollution. They're huge, but they're also really easy to deal with. So companies like Coca-Cola, Danone, and so on, they're buying a lot of that plastic waste because it's really easy to deal with, to reprocess, to recycle, and then it looks good because you're doing your sustainable goals. And I think it's great. It's really important that that be done. But then we also noticed that there's this huge amount of plastic pollution caused by foam plastics. And foam plastics is essentially anything you'll see on a trainer sole and the flip-flop, because we actually, on a world scale, we produce 3 billion pairs of flip-flops. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's half the population's worth of the world population's worth year of flip-flops. And most of them, they're plastic. Like the vast majority of them is plastic. And it's been designed in a way to be really durable and really light and mostly unrecyclable.
Yeah.
You know, whenever you go to beach cleans in Africa, in Southeast Asia, in South America, one of the main things you pick up is flip-flops. There's plenty of them. So we just thought, you know, this is great that people are doing something about ocean plastics, but there's something missing here, and that's what we can do something about, even though we had no idea how to do anything about it when we started. But, you know, this is something we can do.
How was the process? How did you figure out, okay, so this is the problem we want to solve. How was the process to finding the solution that you found right now?
Yeah, so the process, so we knew we had the problem was these unrecyclable. Well, at that point, we still thought we could recycle them, but we knew we had to deal with these plastics, and we knew we wanted to create a product. So we thought about, okay, what can we make with these sandals? And the most obvious scenario for us was, we remake sandals out of those
Makes sense.
Right? So I thought, okay, this is where we are, this is where we want to go. And we also want to create a sandal that's going to be fully, like anything we create, we want it to be circular. We don't just want to be flogged recycled product that is itself going to just end up right back where it started. So we had the entire vision of what we wanted to do, use this waste, make a product, make sure that product is responsible and reusable in itself. We just had to fill in the gaps of what can you do. So we started digging a bit, you know, where can we find most of the waste? And the places we knew best were Southeast Asia. And we were, you know, digging a bit. We'd been to Indonesia, to Thailand. And we actually met this lady on LinkedIn who commented on one of my very early posts about this is what we're trying to achieve. But at that point, we had no idea what we were doing. We just what we're trying to do. And she, I don't know, she liked or she commented, one or the other. And I was going through the people who reacted to my post just to have a look at who might not be people I knew. And I saw her name. I was like, okay. and she was working with waste management in Bali.
Right.
Oh, that's quite interesting. That could be good for us. So we started chatting, and we realized she was actually beginning to deal with a lot of ocean plastic waste, all that stuff, and she didn't know what to do with the flip flops because they were them, and she didn't know what to do with them. And she invited us to come over and to start having a look and so on. So we did. We went to Indonesia. We assessed the situation. We picked up a bunch of flip flops ourselves. We spoke to recyclers locally to try and get a sense. And the bottom line was there's so many different types. They're so hard to tell apart. Some of them are recycled, some of them are not. Good luck, guys. And we went home with a suitcase full of flip-flops, like full of waste flip-flops.
Yeah.
Send them to people in Austria, in Italy, in the UK. We tried many different things until eventually we realized, we can't recycle them. So we're going to have to find a simpler solution. And that's when we were introduced to another contact we have in Thailand, who was working with these waste flip-flops for a couple of years.
Yeah.
We came up with him and working with him now, we essentially make these sheets that allow you to upcycle rather than recycle. You can essentially reuse that waste without burning it, because the main challenge is in recycling, you need to burn, you need to melt things.
Yes.
You can't do that with foam plastics because they don't melt, they burn. So you end up with just black tar, which is not very useful. And with him, we're actually upcycling. So we can reuse in a very low-tech method that actually allows us to reuse everything. So we don't even have to discriminate between, this is this type of foam, this is that type of foam. We pick up everything and make these new sheets that allow us to create something new.
And can this method be, you guys are focused on sandals. I know you're going to release other different products as well. But is this method useful of upcycling? Useful to create other types of products, or is there a limit to the type of product can be created?
There's definitely a limit to the type of products you can make with materials we have, but it's also very early stage what we're doing right now. And we've partnered with universities actually here in the UK. So we've received European money, European research money to do some work here. So we're partnered with the University of Birmingham. We're talking with the South University here. And with them, we're trying stuff essentially, because we have all this material. We've got this process that gives us this sheet, and we know with this sheet we can do a few different things, especially in construction, because it seems to fit quite well for some construction purposes. But it's really early stages, so there might be many other applications, and we're looking into that.
Well, and that's what we are. Well, that's what we are doing as entrepreneurs. We create something out of nothing. We test, we try, we do different things. And I think that everyone is listening or watching right now, they can think about, okay, what can I do different to push the boundaries in my industry? And maybe you're in the consulting industry, maybe you're creating products or services, and maybe you have a passion yourself for the environment. Like I know that's how we connected. We both have a strong passion for environment, for social change, is one of our primary drivers. That's how we connected so well. When we met. And I'm always thinking, okay, how can I do things different? How can I create something different? Whether it's on a service, you guys are working on product levels. But if you're listening or watching, think about, okay, what can I do different that can create an impact in the world? What is something I'm really passionate about solving? And how can I go with that? Now, I recently you put an incredible, really good LinkedIn article talking about how coronavirus is actually affecting ocean pollution.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
Yeah, I was actually, because, I keep up to speed with a lot of this stuff, and because it's important to read more than just coronavirus news, especially in a space where we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So we're still looking into what's the status of fashion, of ocean plastics, of the markets. And I came across this article that just pointed to the fact that, the cost of petrol has collapsed, both to do with coronavirus and the war, the trade war, well, not trade war anyway, the conflict between Saudi Arabia and Russia. And the obvious impact of that is suddenly plastic is a lot cheaper. New plastic is suddenly really, really cheap because plastic is made from petrol. So if petrol is cheap, new plastic is cheap. I was like, oh yeah, okay. Which suddenly makes recycled plastic relatively even more expensive than it already was. And when I was like, wait, so this is in itself is bad news. but how is that actually going to have an impact on ocean pollution? And I started looking a bit more, and I realized, so A, this is happening, so plastic is cheaper. B, a lot of recycling plants are closing. So because, then a lot of them are not deemed essential,
Sure.
they're closing, they're not operating. Then we have a lot of consumer goods that are being wrapped in extra plastic to make them safer. And, it's important that we stay safe as people and don't come into contact with the virus. But that means more plastic, more foodstuffs wrapped in plastic, more virgin plastic produced. And with the economy going down, if companies have to cut costs, how is it likely that they're going to keep to their promises of sustainability from before the crisis? I don't know. I like they will, but we also don't know what's going to happen. And
there might be company thinking, well, because now plastic is so cheap, let me ramp up the production because it is gonna be more expensive later, and maybe they are dealing with kind of plastic that they don't use recycled plastic for one reason or another yet.
And all the beach cleans are stopped. Like it's not any of the, and all the NGOs are really struggling as well, because a lot of them depend on donations. And people, if they can't afford to pay their own rents, they're not going to be donating to NGOs. And
so like a global knock-on effect that can
Exactly.
start here, that can result in a massive ocean pollution. So what is a message if someone is listening right now? If you had in front of you, imagine that this is like the BBC or the CNN, you're in front of millions of people, you have your key decision makers in front of you. What is a message that you want to send them?
I think the message is that we all have to really be responsible. We all have to take responsibility for our actions and our use of plastic, because plastic is not the problem. The problem is how we manage it and what we do with it. And it has to come from all levels. It has to come from the government, needs to keep doing what it's doing, do more. Corporation need to be held to account and deliver on their promises. And even us as individuals, we need to be aware of all the actions we take on a daily basis and how much of them are unnecessary or how much of them are making things worse. It's not that hard to put things in the right recycling bin, yet it's not done, even in places like London. So really just a matter of, if you say you care, then be responsible for your actions.
Right. So if you say you care, be responsible for your action. You're listening. We're talking to you. Okay. So take action. Our world that we're living in is our responsibility. I think that what coronavirus is highlighting is how interconnected we are.
Yeah.
And is showing it even more.
Sure.
Is the first time in history that we have an event which actually is affecting the entire world at this scale. Not even worse. Even worse, generally, they were close to continents, not to the entire world, at this scale. So it shows how interconnected we are. It shows how interconnected we have become. And it shows how we have a responsibility to one another, just with self-isolation. That's a very first example on how your action is going to impact the actions of and the results, or is going to affect hundreds of thousands of people just because they've been in contact with you. And the same things happen with the environment. So remember this. Now, Flavio, it's time to wrap up. Before we wrap up, though, I want to ask you a question. I ask all my guests. Is the time of the interview which is called lifting the veil. Now, I'm not going to ask you to take your shirt off. Don't worry about that. But I'm going to ask you to share one tool or an app or a book, something or a practice that you discovered recently, either for your business or for your personal life, that is so good that is worth sharing. What is that for you?
I think the main practice that's made a difference for the business and for my life is just to find people who are going to be your mentors and who are going to be your advisors, or however you want to call them. But find people who are there, who have your interests at heart, because they share your vision and your passion, and spend time with them on a regular basis. That's a practice. That's something I still do, even in this lockdown right now. I have my next call is with one of our advisors, and it's really important because it keeps me grounded to reality, to what's happening, and it takes us a lot further.
Nah, that's gold. In particular, in a moment where a lot of people are thinking about themselves, is a moment actually where you need probably more support.
Yeah.
in order to keep going. Because yes, things might be getting tougher. And so what are you doing to make sure that you can perform at a high level? So
Yeah.
great piece of advice. All right, Flavio, if someone wants to reach out to you, can they get in touch with you? How they can connect with you, work with you? What's the best way?
Yeah, sure. I'm responsive on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is great. If you want to just put my name in there, there's only one of me, and I'll be responsive there. And then also if you go onto our website, sorry, newoceans.com, NU Oceans, you'll find the newsletter there. You can reach out to me through there, and our Instagram as well. All three of those are really good.
All right. Instagram, LinkedIn, and newoceans.com with NU.
Yes.
The links are going to be in the show notes. So make sure you scroll down. You can find them if you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening on your favorite podcasting platform, you can check the show notes. Make sure you connect with Flavio, because this is the beauty of connecting with like-minded people. If you have a passion for the environment, then you want to surround yourself with other people that have the same passion. You never know what you can create. So if you have something that you can contribute to what Flavio and his team are working on, then get in touch. So then you can start a conversation in that way. Or if you have any relevant contacts, the work that Flavio and his team are doing is incredible and is needed right now for the sake of everyone's on the planet. So Flavio, thank you for the work that you're doing. Thank you to your
Thanks.
team and all your business partners for the work that you're doing. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next interview.
Thank you, Simone.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching or listening. One big favor I need to ask you. If you enjoyed this interview, then leave us a review for two different reasons. One, for the guests, so they know the impact that they're making. Secondly, it helps the show to grow. The more reviews we get, the more listeners we get. So if you're listening on iTunes or another podcasting platform, leave us a review. It means a lot. It helps the show. I really appreciate it. And also it's really good for my ego, which is the third reason why. And you will have my love and gratitude for the rest of your life. You might not care, but you will have it. All right, time to wrap up. I'll see you next time for another episode of Simone of Explode Your Expert Business Show. I'll see you next time. Ciao.